Most people have this like completely backwards misconception due to our culture that we have to work longer hours, and the more we work, that's called grinding. That is so backwards and is so not true. Grinding is really being able to take your time and maximize it and getting the maximum output for it. That's grinding. Don't be fooled and say just because I worked an 18-hour day means that I was productive and I did something well. You could actually take that 18-hour day and work 3 hours and make whatever you did in 18 hours happen in 3 hours, and then focus the rest of the time learning other things or being around the people you want and doing things that make you happy, what you're passionate about. My name is Bakti. A lot of people know me from my nickname as Ace. I'm originally from India. I immigrated here when I was 4 years old. I've been living outside of Philly my entire life, basically. I've traveled to the East Coast, to the West Coast, and lived in different places, but Philly really is my home. I went to all Philly schools, Philly sports, so everything Philly, and now it's about Philly music. So I would consider myself an entrepreneur, although I really don't like that word because most people have this weird connotation when you tell someone that you're an entrepreneur. In reality, I'm a person that has multiple visions, multiple passions, and it took me a while, but I figured out a way to take all my passions and do them as my day-to-day job and get paid for it. So I no longer work anymore. I did before. I worked for 15 years in different jobs, working in corporate jobs to small companies, big companies. And I've realized that, after paying my dues, what I do now is just really invest in businesses and invest in other entrepreneurs and help them scale businesses. My real focus in this space, in the creative space, is really music. So I'm the guy behind the scenes that people rely on to help them curate their first initial audience. So I'm the person that helps you find who your online fan base is, makes you start thinking about music in a business format, thinking about music from a marketing format. And we're really just, my focus is to help artists gain the traction that they're looking for that they sometimes lack, because not all artists are marketers, not all artists are social media savvy, and we're driven in an online world. So my job here at Breed Studios is to make sure comfortably you can find out who you are online, and we can amplify that to get you ready to play in the professional leagues with major artists. So I have a unique story of how I got into music and entertainment and how I ended up where I am here. And really, music is the main force, I guess, that's really pushed me to become an entrepreneur, to start business and really believe in myself in a different way. So as a young kid, I played all kinds of musical instruments. Music was my outlet growing up. I had played the saxophone, I played the trumpet. I got a chance, my first instrument was the violin, believe it or not. The only instrument I didn't get to play was the drums, and one instrument that I hated was the guitar. So with all that, that was just a big part of my childhood. As I grew older, sports kind of replaced my affinity towards music. And I really found that affinity kick in really in high school, and I just started to dive into words. I don't know why, but I was just so infatuated with learning more and more words in high school. I went through this weird point where I would just be studying words, and I had books and books and books of just words and definitions and synonyms, and people would think like, what is wrong with you? But it was just a fact of what I realized, how words separate people because of how you talk and how you articulate things can set you apart, and really just who you become starts with how you express yourself and the words that you use. I remember senior year being in my English teacher's class. His name was Mr. Polanski, and we used to make fun of him because the kids would say, man, this guy doesn't teach. All he does is sit with this guitar and then string these melodies. The whole class, he would be speaking to you with this guitar and just have melodies. The craziest thing was I went into this zone in that class and I started writing music. And it wasn't really music, it was just words strung together. But by the end of senior year, I probably wrote 20, 30 term papers, probably had maybe 40 projects of writing in that AP English class. And the crazy thing was, it didn't matter if my papers were 30 pages or 2 pages, the whole thing would rhyme. You would read the whole thing and it would make sense and would paint a picture for you. And my English teacher was so fascinated that I would do this, and he's like, you're going to be an incredible songwriter. I was like, I couldn't understand what he was talking about, but he's like, I read your paper in 30 pages, it all makes sense and it all ties in, and you're telling a story in a rhythmic format. That's, I believe, set the blueprint of kind of giving me the confidence that I was this creative, because I never looked at myself as a creative. And for a long time in my 20s, the business savviness of me and the hustle mode of college and finding jobs and internships and trying to just make money kind of shadowed my creativity. And I forgot about creativity for most of my adult life. And recently, within the last year or so, because music's entered back into my life and I never asked her to come, she just comes knocking and I come and this is where I am, it's become this seamless transition of understanding the language of music, understanding artists. And I wonder how I got that power, but then I look back and reflect and say, wow, it's really the blueprint of what I've done in my life that led me up to this moment to be able to be who I am. And I want to be the best music marketer there is in the business. It's a lofty title, but it seems like a natural thing for me when I think about myself and envision myself, what's about to happen in the next year or so. So I recently was blessed about a few years ago and became a father. I have a young, beautiful daughter. And after becoming a father, I realized and reflecting back how important childhood is. And, thinking back about how my childhood defined me as a person as I am today has been the biggest thing of who I am, trying to find out who I am and going in that pursuit of finding your identity. My childhood was everything for that identity. So I grew up, unlike some of the kids today, and I have this discussion a lot of times with people, that I grew up outside of my house, which means that I didn't come home until it was dark and I was forced to get home. You couldn't catch me in the house. We would play video games when it was rainy, but all day, every day, I was playing sports, mischief in the woods, making stuff, burning stuff. What kids do and boys do. But we were just out and about. We would go on adventures, and my whole childhood just related about just playing sports and having fun. And it didn't matter what was on a computer screen or what was on TV. And that really helped me to define myself, as far as I grew up playing sports my entire life, and it gave me that attitude and that drive to kind of push myself beyond normal limits, because sports can really break you. And like in high school sports, especially when the pressure's on and everybody's in tough competition, it takes a lot out of you. And I feel like my childhood primed me for that experience. And most people kind of, comment on athletes and how they perform, but most of those people don't know how to play sports. And they don't even know what the mentality of an athlete is. And that mentality of an athlete really helped to define me as a business person, to set a vision and really push myself to different levels. I know recently I had to kind of go back and rethink about myself in a different way, because I was sometimes when you're a visionary, you keep thinking and having these grandiose thoughts and you want to just put them out there, but like after a while those thoughts are so big and those, they don't come to fruition right away. And you almost kind of go back to yourself and feel like, are you delusional? Are you really thinking something that's not even there, that's never going to come to fruition, that is kind of, it messes with your psyche. Like, am I able to execute? Am I actually going to be this person that I have in my head that I lay the vision out for? So recently, I went through a struggling point with that. And what I had to do was I had to create a physical reality of it. I ended up out of nowhere signing up to run, and I hated running before. It wasn't something I liked. Conditioning wasn't everything when you play sports, but it made me push myself back to my inner child of doing things because you wanted to. And I signed up for running this half marathon that I just completed in September. And it took me 2.5 months to train, but what it did for me was it brought me back to reality and saying, okay, I had a thought, I needed a goal, I needed a win, and I put something in front of me that I couldn't achieve before. And I'm a person, I used to be a pack-a-day smoker. So for me, I just quit smoking 1.5 years ago. This was like, hey, this is gonna be a big win for me. Mentally, it brought me back into reality and saying, yeah, I am a visionary, and the things I have thought about that might be far-fetched to others, they are going to come true, because if I can make this happen in the real world, then I can know that what I'm thinking about 1 year from now or 2 years from now, it's going to come to fruition, and it's just the law of the universe. I have to believe in the confidence to draw that energy in. Universal consciousness. That's what meditation is. It's one of those things that you hear mentioned from Facebook articles to people that are strong enthusiasts of spiritual researching, and guys that are like Tony Robbins or your Gary V's of the world that want to do positive speeches and motivational speakers. They all talk about meditation. And meditation is basically manifesting, right? It's taking what is in your soul and putting it out in the world as energy. I didn't realize what meditation was my entire life. I grew up around it. My grandfather was heavily into it. And I would see this man go into meditation from anywhere from 3 hours to up to 8 hours in a day and just sit there in a position and completely be somewhere else. And I couldn't understand how he could just stay and focus and why he wanted to do that. But I always grew up seeing it. I had this impulse in my adult life for the longest time that kept telling me like, hey, you need to meditate. Hey, you need to meditate. And we all get the voice in our heads, and sometimes you listen to the voice in your head, but it's been one of those consistent things that's been coming to my head over and over again that I need to meditate, and I couldn't understand why. And then it came to realization when I had a really tragic event one day, that closing my eyes on that day and finding peace, I was awake, and all of a sudden hours just flew by in my awake consciousness, but I was in meditation, but I didn't know that I was in meditation. Where I went for that period of time, I can't recall back today, but for a long time I recalled and gave me that feeling of energy of this is what meditation is, this light switch, this aura that you kind of enter into. Now, recently, I've started meditating ever since I started this, racing and challenging myself physically. The meditation helps to see and anticipate what I'm going to do in sports or a physical challenge that I'm about to go do. And it helps to put a vision board mentally of what my end goal is and how I'm gonna get there. Now I use that in my personal, for my personal problems. I do that for my business problems. I do that if it's not even problematic, just to have a sense of gratitude every day. And I realized that when you have gratitude, even taking 10 minutes of having gratitude of people around you, stuff that's going on, the fact that you're alive, that little simple time that you take for yourself just translates into energy that gets built every single day. And with energy never dies, and it just manifests. So if you can build energy every single day, you're gonna create this storm that you don't even know, a force field, and it's going to attract all things within that force field that you're thinking about. And people don't think that's real, but like if you go find a physicist and talk about quantum physics and how you can force actions to happen through energy, he will tell you scientifically that this is being proven and that the human race doesn't realize how connected we are to the events around us. We don't see the coincidence and the triggers in our life. But when you become conscious and you see all those things and you're living differently, and signs mean different things, and events mean different things to you, it all comes to full understanding, and then your brain just understands that you're at a different wavelength. I recommend people get into it, yeah, but it's not for everyone. It's like where you are in life, and if it's something that you need to find an answer to, you can find it within yourself. If it's something you need to heal, you can heal yourself. Don't let other people convince what your body and your consciousness is telling you. And that goes a long way for me, and it's helped me a lot to understand myself and find purpose. So we can all talk about taking care of ourselves and self-healing, eating right, working out right, feeling right, thinking right. All of that stuff matters, but how does it really tie into the end product and where you want to go, and how does that help? I know for entrepreneurs, a lot of them have those types of practices because of the common good that those practices offer, and because other people within their circles have practiced similar routines. That kind of is the circle of business professionals talk about, hey, this is my morning routine, or hey, this is my routine. Every major successful person has a routine, and that routine actually defines them as the moment they wake up, the first 45 minutes from the time they open their eyes. What is that routine? The consistency of that routine programs their brain to say, okay, yesterday is like today, and I won yesterday, today I'm going to win. For an entrepreneur, you wake up and hit the ground running, knowing that you're looking for a win. We don't go to work for losses, because although you may lose a game a day or two, but like you're understanding, reviewing tape and seeing what you did wrong and going forward for the next day. That's what really self-care does for you. It programs you to be very laser, to be precise, have laser precision on everything you do, to have full focus. Most people have this like completely backwards misconception due to our culture that we have to work longer hours, and the more we work, that's called grinding. That is so backwards, and it's so not true. Grinding is really being able to take your time and maximize it and getting the maximum output for it. That's grinding. Don't be fooled and say, just because I worked an 18-hour day means that I was productive and I did something well. You could actually take that 18-hour day and work 3 hours and make whatever you did in 18 hours happen in 3 hours, and then focus the rest of the time learning other things, or being around the people you want and doing things that make you happy, what you're passionate about. And we come from a culture now that, we all, work is everything. Work isn't everything. We just put a lot of weight on it. And once you figure out the science of working smarter, not harder, everything comes so much more clearer to you. A lot of people ask me, Ace, you have like 3 or 4 businesses. I don't even know what you do. A lot of my personal friends ask me that. And I tell them it's because I realized that my time is my biggest asset, and I maximize my time. I don't waste time talking on the phone. My meetings on the phone are cut at 15 minutes. My email regimen is completely, as lean and efficient as possible. I don't take meetings if I don't have to. I don't go out for drinks with friends and colleagues. It's all about maximizing what I'm doing to make sure that I can focus on these different businesses, give them the attention they need, and they will grow within the same pace. Some will grow faster, others won't. But what it does is that it creates this ecosystem it's a system that you create that's like you replicate over and over again. So it could be 3 businesses or 300. The system is still the same, and I have a certain amount of time every day, and how I'm going to use that and implement that to make sure that my whole sphere of my day-to-day actions all revolve around each other. One business affects another business that affects another business. So I'm really just waking up every day and just being so focused on the task ahead that it doesn't seem like, hey, I'm jumping from one business to another. It just seems like I'm solving all the same problems, and then they just go out to different people that are in charge and have different roles in each one of those businesses. And that goes back to making sure that your head is on straight, your feelings are right, and you're waking up every day maximizing your time. So I have a lot of people that I look up to, right? And they all influence my thoughts and actions, the way I speak a lot. And these people aren't just people in my family or people I know, but people that are, leaders, or a person that's an entrepreneur, or someone that's even the janitor of a place. It doesn't matter what your level or your place in society is. I find happiness connecting with people from all walks of life, but I don't connect with everyone because I'm not a people person. I know that. And, being and talking to people all day is not, I don't enjoy that because I have this weird sense of feeling someone's energy. And when I know I have a good vibe with that person, and that energy is good, that I want to spend time conversing. And when I spend that time, I find the most craziest bits of knowledge from people that you wouldn't expect finding that knowledge from. And I never close that gate for myself. I never burn bridges because other people define someone else as, based on how much money that they have, or what they might be doing as occupation. That has gone really well for me as defining and keeping an open palette to information and not letting your ego come in the way of learning. And I'm talking about taking excerpts from Barack Obama, taking something from, your Grant Cardones and the people that push motivational speaking. You could always take bits from them. But then you have people, like your Jeff Bezos and your Elon Musk and, all kinds of, influential people, your Jack Ma's, they all do incredible things, and each one is different, and they have this humble outlook on society. That's the one thing that connects all of them together, is that they never think of themselves as better. They only think of themselves as a catalyst for good. And that really resonates with me because if you know me personally, my friendship and my circle, it's like a circus. It varies all across the board. I know people that come from all walks of life, shapes, sizes, forms, religions, races, everything that you can think of. And, my wife makes fun of me and like, wow, your friends are very eclectic. And it's like, it's all about energy. You drew these people into your life because of energy. And it happens that like, I get the craziest coincidences that happens, and people call that synchronicity, but like it happens because my energy what I did 5 years ago was so good, it came back 5 years later, and this coincidence happened in my life, and that worked out and gave me, a door opening and this opportunity happening. But it's just being in the room with like-minded people, and I always tell people, if I give them a bit of advice about something, it's just be conscious of the company you keep, because it defines who you are. It defines how much you're gonna learn. And people always give this example of the shark in the fish tank. A shark in a fish tank is gonna grow to the size of a fish tank, even if you know that shark is gonna be 8 feet long in the ocean. So if you're stuck in a fish tank with small-minded people, then go and get yourself in a bigger tank, and hopefully that tank dumps out in the ocean, because that's where you really belong. And that ocean is having that whole circle of people that just better you and make you so much more than you are, and see you for all your possibilities. When you have the wrong circle around you, you seem to feel like you're stroking your ego because you're the smartest guy in the room. And you don't want to ever be in a situation where you're the smartest guy in the room, because when you find yourself in that situation, that means you're in the wrong room and you did poor for yourself. So if you're really looking to grow, just change who's around you, and overnight you're just going to find a whole new perspective on reality and a meaning to what you want. Because unless you find someone that really makes you feel hungry and competitive and sets the bar for you, you keep striving you want more, but it's never really an actual achievement. It's just this you know, the psychedelic that we have in saying, oh, I just bettered myself because I did this a little bit better than anybody else. That's not a win. You know, wins really happen for people that are looking and thinking on levels that you can't even fathom. Find those people. Find out why and how you should join that conversation.